Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, palpitations, and perspectives. We have a couple of extra personalities we kind of screwed in here this morning. Just right or left-handed thread, I'm not sure, but we got you in coming in the door here. Well, we have an excellent guest this morning, and I'm going to have my co-host du jour. That would be co-host for the day.
Thank you.
Dan Tackett. Mrs. Busby's not able to be with us this morning. She and her daughter are enjoying a short little trip. She'll be back today sometime, I imagine. So in any event, by the way, Dan, we always try to start Viewpoint, you will recall, with a kudo or two or three or four.
Right.
In view of the subject matter of the morning's program, I just think it'd be appropriate to just put a kudo in for the Lincoln Rotary Club. And the reason for this kudo will be self-evident as we move along with our conversation with our guest this morning. So kudos to the Lincoln Rotary Club and all they do, which is considerable in our community. Without further ado, why don't you introduce our guest this morning, Mr. Tackett?
I would love to, but could I add a kudo before I do that?
Well, I suppose so. He's a guest, isn't he?
It will be something close to your heart, I think.
Oh.
Read a great story in the Courier this morning about the Lincoln College jazz program. Mm-hmm. Music, as you know, is pretty close to my heart, and wow, I was really impressed by all they're doing with that program.
Yes, thank you for that. You know, I bleed purple as far as blood is concerned, having a long connection with Lincoln College. In fact, going back to 1919 when my own father was a student there. So right. we have a history of Lincoln College support. Oh, and incidentally, and not so incidentally, Tim Serby's gone aboard with them on a part-time basis to work with their vocal department, and that's going to be a huge improvement out there. So that's good. That's going to be a really nice something to look forward to. I think now we just get on to business and introduce the president of one of those organizations here in town.
Absolutely. Actually, our guest today is someone I don't think I've ever really met. I've read news stories and copy-edited news stories about you and your role as superintendent at District 27. I can't recall how long you were there, but you're here today to talk about something that's pretty close to your heart, and that's the Lincoln Rotary Club and its many, many activities, all geared up to benefit the Lincoln community. Mr. Kirby Rogers, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm in my second term as president of the Lincoln Rotary Club, and right now our club has 62 active members, and we meet at Lincoln College for lunch on Wednesdays, and I know everybody eats lunch on Wednesday, so why not eat it at the college and join Rotary?
There you go. Oh, and by the way, again, speaking for the college, another kind of kudo. Boy, our food serving staff out there is top drawer. These kids really eat well. They don't think so.
No Twinkies.
I had a grandson who went through there and subsequently went on to some excellent work, good job as a result of Lincoln College base. But anyway, I said to him when he was on the campus out there, I said, "How's our food, Jerry?" Knowing very well what I thought of it. Oh, he said, "It's okay." Well, then he went away to Western, as Cass Busby called it, Western, and and he came back and I said, "How's the food?" He said, "Boy, it was a lot better at Lincoln College." So, Kirby, we have a lot going on, and this service organization that down through the years has done so much in our community. I go back a long, long way in Rotary membership. I go back to the days when we used to meet at the Hotel Lincoln. And
I remember those days.
Yeah. Are you remember that, do you?
Yeah.
It was a great meeting spot. The food was always very good. We go down the cafeteria line there, and Eva Edgell, the owner, would sit there at the cash register. And we soon found out, and we used to do it purposely, we'd all, 3 or 4 of us, would take exactly the same thing. as we go down. Make it a point to get exactly the same thing, and there'd be 4 different totals. She just sat there and poked away, and whatever came up was fine with us.
Yeah. Well, you amaze me, Kirby, with the number on your membership, 62 members.
Yeah. We stayed pretty stable over the last 10 years.
And that's great. That's
Rotary
great.
used to be an old gentleman's club, an old man's club, but back several years ago, Rotary International put in a new policy to accept women, and I think Mr. Gossip's going to talk about that.
Well, we just will address that right now. So we're at the Hotel Lincoln, and we have a new policy at Rotary International to bring along professional ladies, and say that. But rephrase that. Think about that for a minute. So they're going to announce it, and the lady's name was Sue Claus. I remember very well, and she's the first lady to join Rotary. Well, when they introduced her, 4 guys got up and walked. They never came back.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm serious. It's a heart attack. Yeah, that was, and that's how far we've come. Which the distaff side on the golf course, it was an unwritten law that ladies would not play on Sunday mornings or holiday mornings out there at the golf course. And some of the guys were kind of frowned on playing anyway. Well, let me tell you, we couldn't operate that course, Mr. Rogers, without the ladies out there.
Well, and neither could the Rotary Club. We've got some great gals in our club. We're probably 30% women, and they're very active. They have leadership roles, and we're proud to have them. So I always say Rotary is not an old man's club anymore.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But and you have some younger professionals in the community that contribute a lot, and they bring the ideas and willing to work.
Yes.
Now, we have a real history of what's been done here down through the years in Lincoln Rotary Club. Let's just kind of take the first 4 or 5 on your list there. You have that list with you, or did you give it to us?
Yes, I got it.
Well, let's just take the first 4 or 5, and then we'll kind of progress down there. Impact on our community.
Okay, we have 2 or 3 major fundraisers each year, and most of that money stays here locally, and we give it back to the community. We've been very helpful with the Lincoln College Outdoor Education Center called the Creekside with Dr. Campbell. And before
That's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, Dr. Campbell is a great man, and he's a retired professor now from the college, and he still goes out and serves as a curator of sorts out for the Creekside.
Indefatigable worker out there.
Yes. We helped erect an insectarium. It's an inside, it's a Quonset hut with a screen roof. And they raise butterflies in there. They've got prairie plants. We've put boardwalks going out through the park, and it's called a boardwalk to the past. And it's handicapped, so you can get all the way back to the creek. We helped install a bridge over the creek, and I say the bridge over untroubled waters. But it helps get people back into that area, and we're hopefully in time going to get 1,000 feet of boardwalk, and we might even get back to where they found the woolly mammoth tusk at some time.
Yeah, that's a lot of on your knees labor. And that's for younger people. Thank goodness we have lots of younger people in Rotary. If they had guys like me, we wouldn't be existing. But a lot of these Rotarians go out there and give their time. And that's physically kind of demanding work.
Right.
We've written a couple Rotary grants to bring district matching funds back, and they've helped us pay for some of the wood. And so we go out and put in what Dr. Campbell calls sweat equity. We also put the flagpole up at the library and a water cooler inside, and we helped them with a outdoor drop box for books. We helped down at the train station. We erected that old brick building where it was a waiting area for the trains, and now that's been removed because of the renovations done down there. We provide free books and for kids. And this year there's 211 kindergartners in our area at schools, and we provide $6 for them to buy books when they have the bookmobiles come in or the book fairs. And every kindergarten student gets to take home books, and that's from all the way from any of the elementary schools that feed into Lincoln High School. So New Holland and all the parochial schools, kindergartners get books from us.
So you reach outside of Lincoln, actually?
Yes. We reach out into our community because we figure it's a community. It's just not the city of Lincoln.
Exactly.
The book program, in and of itself, is maybe one of the most impressive things we can do, because we're reaching out to youngsters, some of whom, perhaps many of whom, would not get that advantage.
No.
And not to mention that the reading of the printed word is kind of going by the wayside.
Well, and literacy is a thrust in Lincoln and Rotary International. We have right now 3 lending libraries. We actually put up probably a 3x3 box on a pole, and we stock it with books. And we've got one at Centennial Court, and we got one out at the Creekside, and we got one over by Ray White Park.
Sure.
And the newest one is under construction now, and it's going at the new site of the police department. So we put books in it, and kids can come and take a book, and they can read it and bring it back, or if they like the book, they can keep it.
Right. Now, do your members physically construct these?
We have 2 or 3 guys that physically construct it and paint it, and then all the members bring in books from time to time.
Cool.
Jefferson Street Christian Church is in the process of revamping their children's library, and I got 6 boxes of kids' books from them. So, we use resources everywhere to help promote our programs.
They talk about the word legacies. There's a great legacy. Leaving books for kids to learn to read. And another thing is that we can help them out. It's, if they have a reading problem. It's just a great legacy. The history of Logan County. Do you recall, Kirby, when the first Rotary Club was installed here?
Well, the first Rotary Club is 1905 in Chicago.
Yes.
But our club was April 20th of 1923.
You notice he didn't need to look at any notes to tell you that, Bill.
He's a school administrator. He's a school administrator, retarded school administrator. Folks in the audience out there, both of them, might enjoy knowing the history of how we get to the word Rotary. So address that, if you will, okay. Mr. Rogers.
The Rotary symbol or insignia is a wheel with a cog, and the wheel has spokes, and the spokes represent our avenues of service. Rotary was established in Chicago, and they had original members rotated from office to office where they had their meetings. There's a whole philosophy in Rotary that we try to do service above self. And our 4 avenues of service talk about club service, community service, and international service. And it's just, we try to help support other things, and we cooperate with other organizations in our community as well.
Right. And Rotary's been very active in the community. I worked at the newspaper in Lincoln for 45 years, and from day one to the day I left, Rotary seemed to be such a viable organization in the community.
Well, they have a program to eradicate polio, and that's international. There's 35,000 Rotary clubs across the nation.
The world.
And of course, across the world. And in 1980, there was about 350,000 people a year that got infected with polio. We started to try to eradicate polio, and last year there were 17 cases of polio in the world.
Think of this.
2 countries in the area around Pakistan and Afghanistan is where the that polio was afflicting, and it was 14 children last year. So we are trying to eradicate polio out of the world. It takes 3 years before a case is reported to say a country is polio free. And that's one of our biggest thrusts with Rotary International.
So how do you go about doing that?
We raise money and we send groups out to, remember we used to line up in school and get your polio shot?
Oh, sure.
Well, now it's an oral vaccine. They put 3 or 4 drops in the kid's tongue and he's good.
Right.
But some of those countries are very skeptical of the United States and World Health and people coming in and doing things. So it's tough to do that. But think from 350,000 a year down to 14. And today the cases are mostly with kids.
Right. Pretty impressive numbers.
Kirby, I'd like to digress just a minute. You have a personal project, and it's over your left shoulder.
Okay.
I hope Mr. Ash can get that on the video. By the way, both of you listeners out there, if you miss our programs, you can always watch that by dialing up the WLCN Viewpoint on YouTube. And you can get, did you know that, Mr. Tackett?
I did.
There's a cache of programs. So let's address this personal military project, Mr. Rogers. I'm really enthused about that.
Well, I was contacted through the Rotary Facebook page by a young lady in our community. Her name is Carrie Pethy. She's a postal worker out of Mount Pulaski, but she lives in Lincoln. She asked me to think about joining her and starting this military tribute banner program called Hometown Heroes. We talked, and I thought that's something that Rotary could support. We got a hold of Jim Harnecke, which is works for Silco, and he's a Marine, and he's the Commandant Marine Corps League. And we formed an exploration team, and we presented this program to the city of Lincoln 2 weeks ago. We're going to have banners like this around the square, and maybe some in the parks that honor our active men and women that are servicemen, and our veterans, and even a deceased veteran. So this military tribute banner will be hung around town in a prominent location. It's a voluntary program, so anybody in the listening area that has a tie to Lincoln can submit an application for us to consider. The banners I run about $119 a piece, and I have submitted a grant to the Rotary to get $2,000 to help offset that. Our plan is to hang that for 2 years, and at the end of the 2 years, if we have enough people to rotate in a waiting list, we'll present that to the family, and they can keep that as a memento.
I think that would be a pretty popular program around town.
I was amazed at the support we've got. The city council said yes, and Walt Landers from the Streets and Alleys is going to help us hang the banners, and we should be in real good shape. So I'm waiting to hear, and I'm thinking maybe in October we'll have the first banners up.
That's that early.
Well, I'm thinking that as long as we can get people sending in applications and.
Now, there would be some minimal cost to a family.
I think we're looking at $50 from the family, and the rest would be picked up by the club.
I'm not sure my kids would come up with $25 a piece.
Well, the other thing is we will probably always have some kind of way to help some group or some family that might have some financial constraints.
Yes,
the Rotary will pick that up.
There's some folks that it might be an economic strain, but we would not want those pictures not to go up because of that economic strain. So,
right.
We can take care of that.
We'll do what we can. Yes.
Now, the banners would be around the courthouse, and you and I discussed out on Woodlawn Road, perchance.
Well, I was approached last night at the council meeting by the city parks, which are sometimes through a different location, but they said they would honor us and put some banners in the parks.
Oh, nice.
So this would be the park district itself.
Well, the gentleman that talked to me was from the county.
Okay, yeah, the county owns, I think, Latham and Scully Park.
Yeah,
That
so
would be correct.
so that's where we have some. I thought we had enough room for 15 downtown. We have enough money in the grant for 25 in the first year, and we felt that'd be good if we can get 25.
Absolutely.
That's kind of a cohesive thing. It brings together people in the community also. Community working with and for within and for itself, which is really neat. Now, we should talk about Rotary meetings, Kirby, when we meet, and let's just go through that drill there, because that's important. There might be some, and by the way, we emphasize the fact that it's we have ladies, and as you suggested earlier, we couldn't operate without the ladies in our club. So men and women.
Right. We meet every Wednesday at noon. We meet at Lincoln College at the student center there. We meet in the alumni room. It starts at 12:15, but lunch starts around 11:30. So if you want to come in and have lunch, it's $8 for lunch. Mr. Gossett, any of our listeners, if you mention a radio station, he'll pay for your first meal as a visitor. That'll teach you.
That's fair enough. I would accept that challenge.
All right.
Go ahead, Danny.
So we meet until 1 o'clock. We usually have a business meeting that takes place about 5 or 10 minutes, depends on how much the talkative president has to share.
That's been a long time in this last administration.
Now, I'll be real honest with you. I haven't kept up with Rotary's policies.
You spend too much time fishing and fiddling.
Well, I try. With their policies throughout the years and everything, but I know way back, because I go way back, Rotary membership used to be tied to your occupation or your profession. Is that still?
It's not a major thrust. We try, at one time they said if we have a vocation, if we have one insurance salesman and one lawyer and one, but that's not the case anymore. We try not to promote our own selves and our businesses in the meetings. We always have a speaker that comes in, and we take turns bringing one in. If anybody in the community has something they want to talk about, it's a pretty good spot.
I have something I want to talk about right now, if I may.
Let me hear you, Brother Bill.
We're going to talk about our sponsors, because they're vitally important to us. Go right ahead, Mr. Ash. Right back live in the studios here at WLCN, high on the point of Lazy Road, County Road 2250. Our associate guest this morning is Mr. Dan Tackett, sitting in for the lovely and talented Mrs. Busby. And
two adjectives you can't apply to me. I know, Bill.
Lovely and talented?
Yes.
We'll work on that. And our guest this morning, Mr. Kirby Rogers, whom I affectionately call Hoover because of the vacuum cleaner. Kirby, retired school administrator here, District 27, and we're sure glad he stayed in the community when he retired. Oftentimes in a situation like that, the administrator will move on to another retirement area or whatever, and Kirby and Mrs. Rogers have seen fit to stay right here with us in Lincoln, Golden County, and it's been to our benefit. So we're happy to have you with us.
Where's home originally, Kirby?
My hometown's Charleston.
Okay.
Born and raised there, went to Eastern twice and Western once. And
does the name Bird Dry Cleaners mean anything to you?
Oh, yes. Bill Bird.
That's right. You betcha. I knew him well. So that's an old-timer reminiscing. Kirby is current president of our Lincoln Rotary Club, a very active group. We don't sound the klaxon very much. That means horn to you, Dan. Just thought I'd throw that in. But seriously, Rotary is very important. Sometimes quietly, sometimes not so quietly, in things we do in the community. And that's what we're discussing today. 648-5510. Somebody might have a question or a comment about how Rotary has impacted them and or their family. Worldwide, as we alluded to a while ago, the eradication of polio has been a tremendous humanitarian gesture here and accomplishment. Now, right here, more locally, we've just done. Let's go back to the 4-H calf scramble.
Yep.
More of an intermediate thing. It's right here in Lincoln County, and we all know, those of us who've been with the fair for years, and you know, Danny, about how this calf scramble works out there.
I had a son who caught one of those calves one year.
Right. In the old days, when we used to meet out to Hotel Lincoln, the youngsters who captured a calf and then took it home to raise, they would bring it down. There was a parking lot right where the bank is now, and they would bring their cattle in, and the Rotarians would go out and look at them and communicate with the kids on how they raised it. So it was a direct impact on the farm youngsters in the community. That's just one little thing. The Rotary sponsored blood bank many times. You can't get a more direct contribution to the community to get people to bleed for their fellow citizens. We've had a variety of projects. Kirby, is there one in particular that stands out in your mind that you'd like to think about?
They started when they started having the big hurricanes the last several years. Rotary come up with an idea of what they call a shelter box. A shelter box is a box that costs about $2,000, and you ship it down to wherever there's been a earthquake or a hurricane, like in Haiti. You open up the box, and there's a tent. There is a stove for cooking. There's several packets of like the rations you do in the army, where you open it up and you have food in there. There's candles. There's tarps. So it's a self-contained unit where you send down and people can live in it for temporary housing. In some of those cases, like in Haiti, 2 years later, they're still living in some of those.
Yeah.
And that's something that Rotary kicked in as a shelter box idea.
Sounds like that's going to be the case in Puerto Rico as well.
It might, yes.
Yeah.
Now, we have also, one of the things we have done in the past, we erected signs at the entrance to the community. We were responsible for those signs going up at the various entrances to our community. That's an important little thing, but important.
Okay. 2 years ago, Ed Dowling was our president, and he had a vision for us to erect a stone entrance sign out by the interstate off of 55 by Cracker Barrel, or out there by Shoes Design. We have a design for it. We have some plans for it. We even have some money that's stuck aside for it. But our biggest problem was finding a piece of property that we could erect this sign on. So that's kind of on hold. We're still looking. So if there's anybody that has any ideas out there, nice welcome to Lincoln sign, similar to the one out by the Christian University.
Right.
The one little thing that you done, Memorial Park out by the golf course, which is a lovely park near to my heart. Rotary erected a pavilion out there for shelter for folks who want to go out there and have a family picnic or reunion of any kind. Again, a little thing, but very important to those that use it. There's just so many things that. Now, you had a sign. You planned and you erected the sign at the Golden County Airport.
Yes, that was a
long time ago.
Long time. That was before my time.
As administrator, yeah.
Right. There's another thing that I just thought of. Lake Bloomington has a Timber Point camp that is a camp for disabled. Rotary has a cabin up there. And a few years ago, I know our club went back in and spent some money and re-roofed it and got it back in shape. I think September 12th, we're going to have a speaker come down. Rick Ham has the program, and the speaker is going to be from Timber Point.
Oh, yes. The bridge over, I call it the bridge over the River Kwai, out there at the Scully Park.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Which is a lovely bridge. And very substantial.
Kickapoo Creek.
Kickapoo Creek.
Right. That
was done in conjunction with and cooperation with Kiwanis.
Yes.
Another fine local organization here. That bridge gets a lot of use.
It would be interesting if you would have put a traffic counter like IDOT uses when that was first erected to see how many people
People
actually crossed that over the
Oh
years.
my!
Yeah.
A lot of times I sometimes just take a drive around there. Slow, very slow. Everybody passes me, and I stop often or in that bridge area. If they're kind of reflect a little bit, and there's a lot of people using that.
Oh yeah.
On a regular daily basis. Go ahead, Kirby.
Well, when they put in the new swimming pool out at the rec center, Rotary wrote a grant, and we put in that handicap lift to help lift handicapped people in and out of the pool out at the park district. So I mean, that's just something that we do, and we sponsored a swimming party out there to initiate it, and invited all the people from the developmental disabled homes.
You know, and I mentioned just a few minutes ago that you mentioned that you worked with New Holland school kids, and I said you do reach outside of
Yes.
Lincoln, but I'm looking at the list of accomplishments here, and I see places like Kenya, Africa, Haiti in here.
Yeah.
And it is Rotary International. You do have an international outreach, right?
Right. Barb O'Donohue from town established a mission in Pokot, Africa, and with the Pokot people, and we've helped supported things there. We helped with a well. We did some solar ovens.
Solar ovens. That's an important. You might just address that solar oven. I thought that was kind of a unique thing, and she has. She's been a driving force behind that. An interesting thing with her, she goes there, she walks the walk and talks the talk. She lives there with them.
Right.
Yeah. They're celebrating a 20th year of service coming up this month, and they're going to have a celebration over at Little Galilee.
Oh.
So
Now, do you remember how those solar ovens worked?
I do not. That was before my time. I just know that, we've talked about it several times, and we helped her with some irrigation, running tanks on roofs and running out drip lines to the
digging
gardens.
wells. But that's that solar oven, as I remembered, and I'm certainly pretty vague about it, but it enabled folks out there where there obviously no electricity to create their own heat and bake things.
I bet it relies on the sun being out, you know it, Bill? Easier to bake on a sunny day.
Well, I never find it when the clouds are flushing out. That's a given. One thing that I wanted to mention that we have a fundraiser coming up. We're going to sell roses. Let's talk about that, and
Okay.
let's maybe hype that just a little bit.
Okay, well, October 20th is Sweetest Day. So on the 19th, our club is going to bring in roses, and we're selling roses for $20 for a dozen red roses.
Wow.
And that is a major fundraiser for us. Our 60-some members of a club, to encourage them to get out and sell roses, I've given them a challenge to sell 3 dozen roses a person. But I've also kicked in a carrot. I said, if you sell 5 dozen roses, our club will donate 1 dozen roses. And my idea is have enough people sell roses that we have enough roses to donate a single rose to every woman in a nursing home in Lincoln.
Cool.
On Sweetest Day, the 20th.
Cool. Now, where will they sell these roses, or do they take orders?
Yeah.
A sucker like you would take it home to Mrs. Tackett, and she'll wonder what you've been up to.
And I'm sure,
Indeed.
I'm sure Mr. Ash will have a ticket before he leaves here, before we leave here. I just happen to have some in the car. Any Rotarian. I put a blurb on Facebook, so if you look on Facebook and you're interested, send me a check. I put my address in there, and I'll mail you a receipt. On Friday the 19th, our pickup is Jefferson Street Christian Church. You drive through, hand us a ticket, we'll hand you a dozen roses, and you won't have to even get out of your car.
Yeah. Great. Just great.
Again, that's money that we use to support projects. we buy T-shirts and we supported a baseball team at the rec center. You know, we do that, and we do all kinds of projects outside of the ones I've mentioned. But we're going to sponsor a game night on the third Friday of September for downtown Lincoln. Got permission to set up a Frisbee golf course on the lawn of the courthouse. So we'll let the kids and their families play Frisbee golf out there, and we're going to hand out free pencils and popcorn to the kids.
Okay. And when is this?
That's September 21st, the third Friday of the month.
Part of the third Friday.
It's part of the downtown third. Yeah. And one of our goals this year is to have more visibility. Mr. Gossett did mention a lot of people don't realize what Rotary does, so we're trying to get our face out there a little bit more often, and try to see how we can help and lend support to other groups in the community.
Rotaract was a subsidy of Rotary clubs and communities around the country, having chapters on college campuses and so forth. And we've had that happen at Lincoln. And to tell you the truth, the matter is, I don't know whether it's still active at this point in time or not, but it has a major impact. And get these youngsters involved and understanding a little bit of what community service is all about. And that's kind of a nice derivative.
Well, and Rotary Club does sponsor 3 $1,000 scholarships to college students in our three colleges here in town. We have 2 $750 scholarships that we sponsor to high school vocational students. So we are out there and active trying to help the students in our communities.
Right. Is there one challenge other than, well, we always had an attendance rule, for want of a better word, and the secretary is supposed to be responsible for recording your presence or lack thereof. And I recall we had a retired telephone executive, Grover Rayleigh, and he was a hard-working secretary. He took it to heart. And in those days, if you missed 3 in a row, you might be in the gray area. So he would call us if he missed us, and he wouldn't have it of calling me, which tells you I might have missed a few times. But when I was working there, particularly on Chicago Street, my nose was pretty much tied to the grindstone. I didn't get a chance to get away very often, even though it was only across the tracks. In any event, he'd call me and about be 10 o'clock at night. And so about the second call, I said, Grover, what time do you get up in the morning? He said, oh, I don't get up very early. And I said, you will the next time you call me, because I go to bed early and I don't want to be called. So I also get up very early, so expect a call if you call me again. That is not adhered to as it has been. Am I correct?
No, it's not.
We encourage it. We encourage it.
Our 62 members, we have a lot of them that are retired, and there it's easier for them to be there. But we have about 60% attendance on an average. We realize that today's professional businessmen and women can't always just walk out the door. So it's sometimes you plan on being there, but somebody calls or a business associate comes in and they need you, and that's your job. So we're very flexible. We try to do what you can. We also realize that the Clinton Club is close, the Atlanta Club is close, so you can sneak over there and do a makeup if you'd like to. We have visitors coming in all the time from Peoria and Bloomington into our club. And we welcome the visitors, and anybody that's in the listening area that wants to find out more about Rotary, come on over for a meeting and be a visitor for the day.
Yeah.
So Atlanta still has an active
Atlanta
club.
still has an active club, and Clinton has an active club. We sponsored the Clinton Club when they first started, so we helped charter their club.
Sure. When was that?
I'm not sure when that was.
Now, if you did want to come as a guest, Kirby would probably pick up your $8. I remember we talked about this earlier. The hotel is a great, wonderful institution here in town. Great watering hole and great food. I had the noonday programs, and one day, gentlemen, we had a man who was going to hypnotize this lady. And you had to remember and know the hotel decor, early English and just lovely. Chandeliers, wrought iron, and stained glass chandeliers back in the dining room and so. This guy comes up and he does a lot of hocus pocus on this Gallus and Dominus and all this, and so she's supposedly hypnotized, and she goes rigid and drops back, and he grabs her, and we got somebody to put two ladder back chairs there, and she's got her head on a cushion on one chair, and then her feet are on the other chair, and there's underneath, and they got a rubber blanket underneath, not blanket, but a rubber cover underneath, and the idea is they're going to break an ice block of ice on her belly. And so they take this 25-pound block of ice to put on her belly, and she's supposed to be rigid and standing there. And he come overhead with this hammer, and he hit one of those chandeliers and destroyed it. And I mean, it was a valuable thing, seriously. And, by the way, she woke up in a hurry. The object of the program director for Roy is to bring in different people, ladies and or men, who can tell about their vocations or something new and going on in the community. And we have some interesting programs there.
Yeah, we've had programs about the honor flight, and that's always been a great program.
Near and dear to my heart.
Yep. Now, I need to mention September 19th. Our meeting has to be relocated because the college has something going on. So we're going to Timber Creek. And the Timber Creek is going to open up a room for us to have lunch in, and they are going to provide the lunch, so there's no cost for that. So that'd be a good time. Come out for a free lunch and join the Rotary Club. Jan Tabor is going to give a short presentation about Timber Creek, but she just wants to get more people out there and get to see their facility.
Sure.
Danny, do you have any closing questions or comments, sir?
I'll tell you, Kirby is a wealth of knowledge, and he's just been generous in sharing all of it. I think he's covered a lot of bases for me.
Well, you've forgotten your craft because you sit here and be taking notes before. You're just sitting here listening.
That's a lot easier. A lot easier.
I got one more.
Kirby, go right ahead.
One more.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to mention those that are watching on YouTube can see this flag and the banner that I have. This gentleman, Thomas Bradford, this is just a sample banner. He is not a Lincolnite. I don't know much about the man, but if you're looking on YouTube and you see that banner and wonder who he is, this is just a sample that the company created for us to show.
But it's a nice program that Lincoln Rotary Club is now working on. Oh,
Right.
I left a dangling preposition out there. Should never finish that.
It's all right. I'm not copy editing today, Bill.
So rather than a quotation that I've picked off of the air somewhere, let's just close this program this morning with the four-way test at Lincoln Rotarian. This is how we sign off each program every day, every week, and we all stand and we recite the four-way test. Is it the truth?
Is it better to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Is it beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Kirby Rogers, very much, sir.